morning. Today is Tuesday, September 2nd, 2014, and this is Before the First Cup with Zori and Lady Pitball on UCY.TV. Good morning, lady.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm waking up. It's still dark, of course, but I'm getting there.
Very good. It's always dark there, huh? Like in the morning.
Yeah, what, 5, yeah.
Yeah, 5. Oh, jeez.
I know, that's what I say every morning.
My best friend gets up at 5 and has to be at a farm, and she feeds all the animals, and there's a lot of them. And wow. It's hard work sometimes. I mean, that's what being a farmer's about, though.
Yeah, I had a ranch for a while, and it is. And you can't just get up and go anywhere. You know, you got to make sure that somebody's there to feed the animals and do all the work.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Which is can be the downfall, but, I mean, hey, at least you got your own food.
Yeah, that's true. Although this year, I don't know, my garden produced nothing. I'm so sick about it, I've already pulled it up.
So, what about setting up like a little greenhouse? You think
that I'm gonna have to?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, last year my, off the ground garden did great. I got so much, and this year I got 4 squash.
Just put a greenhouse over the raised bed.
I do that, or I'm thinking about building one on the side. Yeah.
You do that.
I've been looking into it.
I mean, because that's going to be the only thing that's going to keep all the crap off of your stuff.
Yeah, and it's in the soil,
Mm-hmm.
I keep my compost covered, but,
That's wise.
Yeah, but then you think, I mean, God, over the weekend, I was looking, everybody keeps forgetting about Fukushima. I know I don't think about it all the time, but there was these scientists and oceanographers that up by Alaska along the coast, they said it's dead. Literally dead.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's not surprised me one bit.
I know, it's that invisible killer that we don't really think about all the time.
Mm-hmm. I'm like really, like I have done this like recently, but I've kind of turned away like fruit and stuff from California anymore. I shouldn't even. Nobody should be eating that. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you know what? I mean, it won't be no problem because the farmers can't produce now. I was just reading an article, and I wrote to the reporter because he didn't mention how, but here in California, California set stage for first groundwater regulations, and that means on your wells. And I wrote them and asked them if they were going to, how they were going to do that, if they were going to use the smart meter, because I've heard they're going to start putting smart meters on people's wells.
I was hoping you were going to cover this one, dude. I'm so glad you're talking about it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and then, I mean, on top of that, and then, Governor Brown's got to go. He's telling all the illegals, you're welcome in California. Come on on.
It's not enough water for you, dude.
I know. But anyway, this article, it says, a farmer checks the drip state. Oh, wait, no, not. Okay. California lawmakers have sent Governor Jerry Brown legislation that would, for the first time, regulate groundwater use as the most populous U.S. state suffers from a record drought. The proposals would require local governments to develop groundwater regulations and give the state the power to step in and enforce restrictions if necessary. 3 years of record low rain and snow have left more than 80% of California in extreme drought, with reservoirs at less than half capacity and water supplies to the nation's most productive agricultural region rationed. Well, drilling has doubled and even tripled in some counties. A critical element of addressing the water challenges faces California resolves ensuring a substantial supply of groundwater. Assemblyman Roger Dickinson, a Sacramento Democrat, said in a statement yesterday, overdrafting our groundwater leaks to subsidence and contamination, consequences we cannot afford. California agriculture faces the greatest water loss ever seen because of the drought, with the surface water for farmers reduced by roughly 1/3, according to a July study by the Center for Watershed Sciences at the University of California, Davis. Groundwater is being pumped up to replace most of the surface water loss, the study said. Farmers have left follow an estimated 500,000 acres because of the drought, and the dry spell is likely to boost the prices of food nationwide, according to the U.S. Agriculture. Brown has called for a statewide voluntary reduction of water use by 20%, and residents now face fines as much as $500 a day for wasting water.
This is a very significant move.
It is. And I mean, to put a meter on someone's land, on their own water, you know, and I've heard rumors that they're going to, somebody told me that their aunt or their uncle they found a smart meter on their well. They didn't even go in and tell them.
Whoa, are you kidding me?
Well, they didn't tell the residents either. We never got notice that they were going to be putting them in. You know, I just knew about it and put signs up before it ever came, but most people, they don't know.
Have no clue.
No, I ask people, do you have a smart meter? I don't know. Well, go out and look. And they'll come back and go, my God, when did they do that?
I think this is part of that that thing when you sign like the title deed to a piece of land, you own everything like above the land, and they own all the resources below the land. You know,
yeah, a lot of titles are like that. They own the minerals, and well, California came at it was United. I can't think. I think it's the United States. Oh no, legislation came out a few years back about how the government owns all water in creeks, all water in rain. That's how come that guy in Oregon went to jail for 30 days. His pond was collecting rainwater. You know, it's crazy. I mean, anyway, that they can go. I mean, there's people here in the town next door that their bills came up to over $1,000 one month for water because they overused, and the penalty was something like $795.
Yeah, they're saying fines as much as $500 a freaking day. And the thing is with the smart meters, they'll know every single drop that goes into your house. You know what?
I haven't heard anyone say that there's smart meters on our water. I know there is on our electricity and our gas meters, but I've gone out and looked at my water meter, you know, like if I find a leak or something, I want to know if it's leaking, and there's no smart meter attached to it, so I don't know.
Here's the thing, too. They just can't go, onto your property and put a meter on your well. I mean, they just can't do that.
They did. They did. I swear. Yep. In fact, not last summer, summer before, we were talking about smart meters, and I was out at these people's property, out at their ranch. They had a huge ranch, and I was visiting the caretaker there, and I asked him, do you have a smart meter here? And he goes, no, I don't have a meter on the house because, you know, they pay for everything. And I go, and we went for a ride, and sure enough, there was a smart meter on their well.
Oh, on their well?
That was 2 years ago.
Oh, see? They're just saying and parading it around, saying that this is just a proposal right now, but you know this damn thing's already been enforced for quite some time.
I've seen with my own eyes that smart meter, because we went out and looked at it.
That is just completely Agenda 21, just all the way down the road.
You don't know if you've used over your amount of water. How would you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you're supposed to keep track of your own meter in order, you know what I mean?
I mean, people were dumbfounded when they were getting these huge penalties. And, like, people have been complaining about it. I read it in the letters to the editor all the time. These fines are way out of line. We know that, you know, there's a drought. We are conserving up here. Well, down south, they aren't conserving at all. And they're getting most of our water. So it's nuts.
It is. It's absolutely crazy. And the thing is that you guys are in a drought situation right now, and they're talking about, and you guys are already conserving water there, okay? You're kind of already facing fines, but they're talking about another reduction of water by 20%, which is really, really going to mess people up bad. I'll tell you right now.
You know? I mean, especially the farmers, you know. I mean, and it's such a catch-22 because a couple months back or a month back, they penalized these people for having a brown lawn.
Right,
yeah, we're in the middle of a drought. But you know what? When I was down south at my mom's last month, every golf course was as green could be.
That's right, especially the ones Obama played on.
Yep, and no one down there is even talking about drought.
No.
You know, I mean, they don't see, you know, the lake and the reservoirs down low. But still, you know, you'd think it would be out there that, hey, we're in a drought. But I tell you, the canals going down to Southern California were just all the way to the brim.
My goodness, Governor Brown and his cronies there, man. They're putting the clamp downs on. I mean, all they've got to do is clamp down on water, and then they've got everyone by the balls. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And then no food. Like, right. Everyone this year, like last year, it was a few people didn't get tomatoes. This year, everybody was complaining, no tomatoes. And the only thing that did well for me this year was my cucumbers. And squash, I love squash. I only got like 4 or 5 out of 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15 plants.
See, it's the complete opposite here. It is a bumper crop here, and I actually saw an article where in the Midwest, corn is doing so damn good that there's going to be a surplus of it, and there's going to be corn like rotting in the fields.
Yeah, but is it GMO corn?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But there's, I mean, the supply is exceeding the demand up here.
Yeah. You know, it's just like any way to get money. I was just looking at this other thing, too. 400% rise fee in renouncing U.S. citizenship. It's now $2,350 to renounce your citizenship.
Oh, that's nice.
They're saying that it's just to cover their cost of the consulate that has to, you know, validate it and all. And the way this guy figures it, they would have, for that cost to be reasonable, they would have to be paying the consulate $135 an hour for that price to be right. It went up from $450 to $2,350. And this lawyer goes, there's no way they can do that because the consulate, one lady, she went and renounced hers. And she goes, I went up the window. I had to go twice. She goes, I went up the window. They asked me if I was doing this of my own accord and if I knew the ramifications. And then she said, that was it. Now, 2 visits like that, and it's $2,350 to denounce it.
Well, that's just another way that they're siphoning off money into their coffers. You know what I'm saying? It's just another way they're doing it. And if you're, you know, renouncing your citizenship, then F you, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because, let's see, it says here, new taxes have been a record number of Americans renouncing their citizenship this year. In the first quarter, only just over 1,000 Americans gave up their nationality, according to Bloomberg News. That's a hike from the 670 who did so the same span last year, and it's already 1/3 of the way to matching the total number of Americans who renounced their citizenship in 2013. And if you are wealthy, if you're worth more than $2 million, or if you've been paying income tax of $157,000 or more, then you have to pay an exit tax, like a capital gains tax. So they're going to get every penny they can out of you before you lose.
That's, oh my, that's a big old F you.
God, man, I'm
If you, dude. If you won the lottery and you're trying to get the hell out, F you.
I mean, and another way they're getting money. Did you know if you live in Florida, you can be arrested if you're caught living together before marriage?
Whoa.
I'm not kidding you.
Dude, I'm glad my dad doesn't live with his girlfriend then. Holy crap.
This thing this floored me when I read it, and it's an old law, but they are still enforcing it.
It's on the books, and they're really still enforcing it?
It says, right here, August 27th, 2014, hundreds of Floridans are still sent to jail for unwed cohabitation. Let's see. It says, Florida, hundreds of Floridans are being fined. Floridians are being imprisoned for the crime of living with a romantic without government permission, thanks to an old-time cohabitation law that is still in effect. This is the law. Lewd behavior. If any man and woman not being married to each other lewdly and I can't say that word.
Lasciviously.
There you go. Associate and cohabit together, or if any man or woman, married or unmarried, engages in open and gross lewdness behavior, they shall be guilty of a misdemeanor of the second degree, punishable as provided by Section 775082. Second degree misdemeanors in Florida are punished by fines of $500 or up to 60 days in jail. The law dates back over a century, crafted by authoritarians bent on using the state as a mechanism for social engineering and population control.
Oh, really?
Yet the state's primary means to this end was to enforcing citizens to get permission to marry in the form of a marriage license. To prevent certain undesirables pairing of citizens, the state was empowered to deny couples the right to marry each other. Now, I remember when they used to take blood tests here in California to get married. That's why everybody ran over to Reno. To get a license, you had to have a blood test. It wasn't that long ago.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. Okay, but a loophole remained in the 1868. The state closed it by prohibiting unwed couples from living together. In conjunction with marriage control, the state maintained broad powers to punish citizens for following their love interest. Originally, the laws were used to arbitrarily prevent racial mixing and intra-family marriages, and to promote eugenics. Yep, that was it. But still, if you're living there and they find out you're not married, you can be fined $500 or be sent to jail for 60 days.
That's nuts, man.
I know, and they're enforcing it.
Yeah, but what's nuts is the whole freaking admission that it was a eugenics thing of social engineering and population control. That's what I felt was quite interesting.
Florida's getting bad. I mean, you can't wear a bathing suit on the boardwalk there. You can't wear your pants down lower than 3 inches below your waist. You know, I mean, those poor people, I wouldn't be living in Florida. That's just too much. Telling you how to dress, telling you you can live with. And now, how are they going to know if you're not just roommates or if you're romantic?
Right.
You know?
When was that law written?
1868.
1868. So anybody now that reads that story, right? They're immediately going to go, "Oh my God! It must have been a bunch of Puritans and Christians that wrote that law." You know what I mean?
But no. Yeah. Well, it wasn't. I bet it was a lot of Christians in there too, because what they were trying to make society perfect. But yeah, that blew my mind when I seen that. I just went, oh my God, and they're still enforcing it. Let's see, I forget how many let's see, I think they estimated, cheating on one's spouse is also a crime in Florida.
Oh.
If one partner commits adultery, both partners can go to jail. However, this prohibition is seldom enforced, but it is still on the law.
How in the hell is both partners going to go to jail if one commits adultery?
I meant both. I think they mean both cheating partners.
Oh, yeah, I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy. Let me see. Okay. The enforcement process remains extremely arbitrary, as there are undoubtedly hundreds of thousands of unmarried residents living together in Florida who have not been charged. There is no practical manner for distinguishing a romantic couple from a pair of platonic male and female roommates, like I was saying, yeah. Interestingly, the law doesn't punish same-sex couples living together. They probably didn't think of it at the time.
What the hell? The gays are exempt in that state. How amazing is that?
And then it says...
never hear about that, do we?
Yeah, well, but back in those days, it wasn't out in the open, though, too.
Right.
And then, despite several attempts, Florida reformers have not been successful in repealing the law in the legislature. Now, what would be your reason for fighting this? Because of money coming in? I don't know.
Well, if you think about it from a eugenicist point of view, you know what I mean? They were trying to sterilize and population control the nation.
Yeah. Okay, and it says here, in their statute 798.01, living in open adultery. Whoever lives in an open state of adultery shall be guilty of a misdemeanor of the second degree punishable as provided by 775.082, where either of the parties living in an open state of adultery is married, both parties so living shall be deemed to be guilty of the offense provided for this section. Make no mistake, Florida is not alone in its history of draconian social controls. Such outdated freedom-restricting prohibitions should be rooted out of existence before they have the chance to punish oppress any further victims. Like, say, if you're married, but you're not with your wife, but you're living with your girlfriend, that would be openly living in adultery.
Right.
Yeah, and they keep these, why, I don't see I know, oh God, about 10 years ago, they started trying to eliminate a lot of these real old stupid laws. Like in Alaska, you can't look at a moose from an airplane and stupid stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But they say it would cost so much. But how could it cost so much? Just go in and scratch them out.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, you know what I mean? But everybody has to, it's all got to be complicated and jump us through as many confusing hoops as possible. And, it's dirtying the waters is what it is. And
it's more money. I mean, I had a friend, God, it was a long time ago, but in Long Beach, his car broke down. And he was working on it. It was on a Sunday. And he was working on it, trying to get it started. And a cop came by, and he gave him a ticket because you can't work on your car on public streets on Sunday. And the guy actually had to go to court and pay a fine.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, the more things are convoluted, the more social controls they have.
Yeah, I mean, you have to walk so many feet behind your husband and all that. Those laws are still on the books.
Meanwhile, here's the thing, though. I'd be willing to go out on a limb on this little comment that I'm going to make and say that I'd be willing to bet that the very people that wrote those laws did not abide by those laws. I can guarantee you with some certainty that they wrote that law for everybody else and they were exempt from it. So or they broke their own laws on, you know what I mean?
I know.
So it's all ambiguous, and that's what they always do, you know what I mean? They've been doing this from the first, from the inception. They've been doing it for so long.
Well, it's like that thing I read that day. The only way the government has control over us is for us to be criminals, for them to make us into criminals, to make laws that can't really be, that they could be widely interpreted, or, and that's how they control us. Because if we're not breaking the law, they can't control us.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, it's crazy. And then the police state,
it's fascism.
Oh man, I printed out. It's 18 pages. I'm not going to read it, but looking back at the police state in 2013.
Wow.
And it just lists all the percentages, how much all the percentages are up on arrest by police, on her brutality by police, murder by police. I mean, these numbers are crazy. And then I found this article. It says, family sues Georgia police for tasering man 13 times before he died.
Oh, man, that's rough. That's a hell of a lot of volts.
13 times. They published it August 29th, 2014, but this happened a few years back. But the family of a man who died after police used a stun gun on him as many as 13 times while he was handcuffed has filed a lawsuit against the two former officers of East Point, Georgia, according to the family's lawyer. East Point police officers repeatedly stunned Gregory Town Jr. on April 11th after he was apprehended by police, according to the lawsuit filed by Fullerton County Superior Court. This is the same county where Kelly Thomas was from, where those cops beat him to death and got off.
Okay.
But this is a different guy. The lawsuit claims former police sergeant Marcus Eberhard, the former Corporal Howard Weems, used excessive force to subdue Towns, who apparently would not sufficiently follow police orders to move after apprehension. It's just heinous, Attorney Chris Stewart told the AP. This isn't one of those cases where he punched an officer and they had to taser him to calm him down. Stewart said some officers act as if any disobedience is called for extreme action, such as the allegedly used against Towns, a black man. In our case, it wasn't about color, obviously, because the officers were black, Stewart said. It was about power. He didn't walk when they said walk. He didn't stand when he said stand. And he didn't move fast enough when they said move. Police use of excessive force, particularly against minorities, has been the topic of contention since the civil unrest in Ferguson, Missouri. Residents took to the streets to express outrage over killing of an unarmed black teenager by a white officer. Ferguson, a suburb of St. Louis, has a majority black population, but police force and local leadership dominated by whites. Town, he was 24. Was approached by Edward and Weems as he was leaving his son's mother's apartment complex following a domestic dispute, according to the lawsuit. Towns ran when officers asked to talk to him. He eventually stumbled, allowing officers to catch up to him and apply handcuffs. The officers ordered Town to get up and walk to a patrol car. But Town said he was too tired after the run. Officer Weems threatened him with a stun gun. If he did not move, according to the lawsuit, Towns got up but soon fell again, insisting he was tired. Stun gun logs obtained by Stewart from the police department show officers then used stun guns on Towns as many as 13 times in 30 minutes. A police report, though, said Town was stunned when it stated that they stunned him less than 5 times, the report said. But the stun gun, I guess, records how many times it's used and what time it was used. The lawsuit charges that Weems and Ederbart violated the East Point Police Department stun gun policy, which says stun guns should not be used on anyone who is in handcuffs, nor should be used to escort or prod someone, nor should be used on someone passively resisting police, like saying, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. There's no reason for stunning them. So it's pretty good that they got, and even the coroner's report agreed with it that he died from the multiple stun hits.
Sure.
13 times in a half hour because he didn't get up and walk fast enough.
Yeah, that's ungodly excessive, and I actually know a buddy of mine that happened to. He was in cuffs and they stun gunned him, and he's not very happy about that.
Well, yeah, and once you're in handcuffs, how can they say, I mean, you might be kicking at stuff, but okay, you're gonna wear out. Time's gonna wear out on you. You just wait. But this thing about force, I mean, it's just across the board, all the way across this country. It is. It's not just on the blacks, although Towns was black.
No, they're turning the police. They're militarizing them, which means turning against the citizens, and that's what a police state is. It's the definition of a police state.
Right. And like Davis in California done, UC Davis and all, they went into their city council, and people should do this all across the country, and they demanded, they said, we're not asking, we demand you get rid of all of the military equipment that you have, and we don't care how much it costs. And so Davis is going to have to, because they go, we don't know if you're going to turn that on us like they did in Ferguson. We don't want it here. That equipment was built to kill. Period. What?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, there's less lethal. The stun gun's considered less lethal. And, they've got that. They got the beanbag rounds that are considered less lethal. They have the sound cannons that aren't lethal. It's just the militarized equipment.
But they destroy they can give you permanent ear damage.
Well, if they turn it up enough, but if they turn it up enough to where, and I've, heard it, and it's loud, but it's not deafening.
But they can, and they shouldn't have that to fight citizens. And that's what they're saying. Military equipment was built for war, period. And it should not be used against American citizens by their police.
Right.
Period.
That's declaring war on the citizen.
Mm-hmm. And now Davis is facing the fact that now they have to pay to ship it back. It costs a lot.
Of course. That's the thing.
Those big vehicles, they're going to destroy the roads. Our roads aren't built for that.
Well, they're not worried about infrastructure in this country anyway. I mean, they're going to create their own little paths in the mud.
Yeah, after reading that, I went up and I checked, and we don't have any military equipment here yet. But, if your city, I mean, maybe in a big city, maybe, I don't know. But, rural counties, like Davis isn't a big city. It's a college town. And they have all that equipment, and they are using it on American citizens, as was seen in Ferguson, and that ain't right,
Nope, it's not.
And things didn't calm down until they put the highway patrol in charge, and they were dressed like policemen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's, because you got your fighting suit on, i.e. the military uniform, people are gonna, start fighting back. But if you have an old-fashioned police officer's uniform, then people will respect those lines a lot more, I'd say.
Cops are wearing camouflage. What are they trying to blend in with? The city street?
I know. And I happen to know that there's OD Green Digicam that the SWAT team wears here for the sheriff's office, and I'm just like, you guys aren't like raiding people in the woods, man. I mean, you need to have the little tans and the urban colors on, if you're gonna. But
it's crazy.
Crazy.
SWAT teams are being used. I mean, these guys look like they should be over in Iraq, because when you see them with their helmets and their shields and their big guns, and it's just, I don't know.
There's a lot of guys that are coming back from Iraq and taking up, there's a lot of jobs in security, in law enforcement. This is where all the jobs are now, because they've switched us from this, we're in a serving economy kind of now, with
Imagine what this does to vets that have been over there, and they see this and they're coming at you. I mean, I just couldn't imagine,
Well, this is why, every police officer and every vet needs to ask themselves, what they're doing. What's the moral high ground? Are you going to take that, or are you going to, do what you're told?
Yeah, that's scary.
Basically, every human has to ask themselves that question. And
after, I imagine it's like anything else. Once you started killing people, and if you're killing them up close, it becomes easier each time, I'm sure.
Some people get off on that.
Yeah, a lot of them do. That's where...
And then they become mercenaries.
Yeah, that's
true. You know what I'm saying? And that's the kind of type of personality that's out there. And
they become cops.
Right. Well, I mean, this is what, video games do. That's
an intro, I think, yeah. But once they've been to war, most of them come back. I mean, look at the suicide rate.
Well, absolutely.
Yep. I mean, they're asking those guys to do things that go against humanity, period.
And most people, cops and vets, are waking up to this. And they're saying, hell no. And most of their foot down. I've seen it.
I've seen some videos where vets are saying, this isn't right.
That's right.
We got to stop. I mean, we thought we left that back there in Iraq, and here it is in our streets.
Yeah.
Like that one Winter Soldier guy said, when I came home, I came home to no home, and I was seeing our citizens being dragged out of their homes, just like I was doing to those Iraqis, dragging them out of their homes and taking over their homes and putting them out in the street,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just, we can all put the brakes on in our own lives, you know what I mean?
And then with that killing here.
A personal choice. When you're out there, and I know it's really, really hard out there in the freaking streets. I mean, imagine being a cop in Detroit. Imagine what that's like. You're constantly in crazy danger out there. And, I mean, so I admire those guys, some of those guys.
The ones that aren't corrupt, right.
Right, and I'll tell you, I think if there's a good chief in place and good, not corrupt base, you know what I mean, you could actually make it work. I don't know.
Well, I think every community should do what we're doing here. All our police are getting cameras on their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And we, I got a hold of the police chief in Reading, and if they are caught turning their camera off more than once, they get fired. It's an automatic guilt. So,
Wait, what is that like in this bylaws of the camera thing, or
no? That's gonna be a Reading. They're still making up everything, and they've already got the funds to buy them. And especially with this thing that happened last weekend when that guy was going to commit suicide, and they went over and helped him along with it, and everybody demanded, we want cameras on our police.
Well,
that way it protects both.
Make them give back the ACPs and trade them in for the cameras. That's one way to pay for it, right?
There you go.
There you go.
They already have the funds, and they are already on order. And all of them are going to have to wear it on them. So because like they argued, the person's dead. He can't talk. He can't tell us what happened, And if there's no one else around right then, or they don't see it clearly, that camera tells.
Well, sure.
It will make police a lot more polite, and it'll protect both the police and the citizen.
Yeah,
so,
that's good. And this is the same sheriff that burned that guy out.
Yeah, it is. Yes,
and I'm never going to forget that about that guy, ever.
Me either. I wish we could get him out. I mean, he says he stands for the Second Amendment, but that, I guess, is the only one that he stands behind.
Well, if you're not standing across the board, then you're not worth salt. As far as
you can't just pick and choose what part of the Constitution you want to follow.
That doesn't hold water anywhere. That's why I don't like, a lot of our representatives that don't do that. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. They're really strong in some places, but they just miss the entire boat on the rest, and it's not acceptable.
And it's got to be hard because everyone has things that they're, just adamant about, but yet you're not supposed to bring that into your job when you're dealing with the public.
Hey, it's supposed to be impartial, and you're supposed to not favor one side over another.
Well, another thing, I don't think this covers the sheriff's department. I know it's the Reading police and Anderson police are getting cameras.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if the sheriff is involved or not. I'm going to have to check and see.
Yeah, you'll have to check that. I'm glad you made the distinction.
Yeah, I just thought of that. Yeah, it was Reading and Anderson. Our city police are going to have cameras.
Okay.
And too, because they said of all the lawsuits,
Right. Well, thanks for clarifying that. That's very...
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, So we'll see. But usually, our sheriff's department out here usually are pretty cool. I don't really hear about, charges against them and brutality or things like that. It's mostly the city cops.
Okay.
So our sheriffs are pretty cool. They cover a big area, and they usually, don't get too involved around, except for like that night that guy got killed.
Got burned out of his house?
No, the guy that got killed down the street from my friend's last weekend that was going to commit suicide.
Oh, gee.
There was 40 cops there, including the dog catcher. My friend was describing it to me because it was the funniest thing. It was like Alice's restaurant. Helicopter up around the top, and every...
for what?
For the guy who was going to commit suicide, but the cops killed him.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it happened last week and down here. My friend, 2 houses down from where my friends live.
Oh, wow.
But he said that was the perfect time to rob a bank because all the sheriffs, city police, and the Forest Service, dog catchers, helicopters, everything was out there.
Holy crap. Yeah.
Everybody, went running to there. But, yeah.
How would dog catchers respond to some dude?
I don't know. It's, it does nothing that exciting. Never happens around here, I guess.
Oh.
It reminded me of Alice's restaurant, if you've ever heard him.
Oh, I've heard that.
With the circles and arrows and the pictures and all this.
Hey.
Yeah.
Jeez. Crazy. That's rough.
Yeah.
Rough business. So, well, that's right. Didn't you mention this on Tuesday or something?
Yeah.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, and what really reinforced the camera thing is, a week before that, another person was killed by Reading police.
Oh, hey, they
under shady circumstances. So
cameras on them. I mean, it's just that they're always going to say though, "Oh, camera malfunction." Whoa, the tape came off the back of my
lapel.
The camera that's in my car. Remember when that?
Oh yeah, fell off.
He's like the tape wasn't working.
Well, look at L.A. Out of 72 cars, I think it was something like 50-something of them that had disarmed them or pulled them off or whatever with their cameras.
Right.
So when they did that, that to me is an admission of guilt. If a cop's camera keeps malfunctioning at just the right time.
Yeah.
Just like the stun gun. In their report, they said they stunned him 5 times.
Right.
But the stun gun said they tasered him 30 times. 13 times in 30 minutes because it stamped, I guess, when and what time they used it.
Right.
So they're perjury.
Cumulatively, perjury, that's one. But cumulatively, that's an awful lot of ampage.
Oh, yeah, that's like the old days when they used to use the shock treatment on people. That's a lot of bullets.
That's right. And that was generally directed into your temples.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Straight up, man. That's...
I don't know. They didn't say in the report where they stunned him, if it was the chest or what, but he died.
Well, I mean...
And
it's a form of torture, really. It really is a form of torture.
Yeah, because he wouldn't get. He was hired. He had just ran from them and ran blocks, and he wouldn't get up. And then when he did, he fell back down. So they just tasered him. Like, that's going to make you want to get up.
I remember once, and this happened a long time ago, that cops busted into this very, very elderly mother and her daughter, and they were, I guess they were refusing to pay for some kind of a fine because of there was a little wheelbarrow, a little antique wheelbarrow with flowers in it in their front lawn, and the cops came to their door because they refused to remove it, and I guess they got into a big old fight, and they ended up out on the street, like in the driveway and on the sidewalk, and the daughter got tased, and her glass eye went rolling down the sidewalk.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I mean, I remember that, and the mother was like in her late 90s, and they were just messing with them and just brutalizing the crap out of them.
Because they didn't obey.
Right, because they didn't obey. And if you don't obey an order that's given by law enforcement, you better prepare to pay the price. I mean, you get up, you get up. When, you know, if they are barking orders, you need to comply, or else you will be brutalized. And I can guarantee that.
I couldn't imagine being stun gunned. I just
you have to comply with everything they say. I mean, I would imagine if they tell you to take a crap right there on the spot, you better be doing it.
Man, it's crazy. I don't know.
Yep. Well, here's like kind of backpedaling a little bit as far as kind of going back to these laws that they create, and more laws, and you know that means more ways to break the law.
Yep, more control.
Here's more control right here. It says driving Stone State are starting to prep for marijuana DUI. So this goes right dovetails right in with that here. It says legalization of marijuana in Colorado and Washington is raising highway safety concerns. It's illegal to drive while high on pot in every state. This is Washington. Washington State. As states liberalize their marijuana laws, public officials and safety advocates worry that more drivers high on pot will lead to a big increase in traffic deaths. Researchers who have studied the issue, though, are divided on the question. Studies of marijuana's effects show the drug can slow decision-making, decrease peripheral vision. How in the hell does it... I've never had a problem. Like,
I haven't either. In fact, they drive safer usually.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And how are they going to tell? Blood test?
Well, we'll see. Let's see if this thing says. Studies of marijuana effects show that the drug can slow decision-making, decrease peripheral vision, and impede multitasking. That's bullshit. All of which are critical driving skills. But unlike with alcohol, drivers high on pot tend to be aware that they are impaired, and they try to compensate by driving slowly, avoiding risky actions such as passing other cars and allowing extra room between vehicles. Now, does that make any sense? That
that sounds like they're better driving.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any freaking sense. What in the hell is the matter with these people? Driving slowly, avoiding risky situations such as passing other cars, and allowing extra room between vehicles is safe driving. That's the definition of safe driving right there. They're saying that's a bad deal. I mean, oh my God! It's the Orwellian doublespeak that they inflict in these freaking laws that they come up with and pull out of their butts.
Because everything you're saying there is going to the opposite of what they are trying to do.
Exactly. Hello. What in the hell is the matter with this picture, people? It's just like it's Orwellian to the max, and it drives me freaking crazy. This is the kind of shit that drives me nuts. 'Cause that's the problem with all the laws. Is so even when you're doing right, you're still a suspect. You know
Well,
what I'm
like
saying?
with the marijuana, if you're doing marijuana, you can have a prescription and be law-abiding, but yet you're still a criminal because the feds can come get you.
Exactly. And they're
Yeah.
just giving, they're just writing reasons, any reason that exists to come and get you. It doesn't matter if you abide by the law or not anymore. All right, so it says, and here we go. This is pertinent here. It says, on the other hand, combining marijuana with alcohol appears to eliminate the pot smoker's exaggerated caution, and it seems to increase driving impairment beyond the effects of either substance alone. So there we go. When they combine it with alcohol, it makes both worse. So it says,
better as
it says we see the legalization of marijuana in Colorado and Washington as a wake-up call for all of us in highway safety, said Jonathan Adkins, Executive Director of Governors Highway Safety Association, which represents state highway safety officers. Alright. But we don't know enough about the scope of marijuana impaired in driving to call it a big or a small problem. So he's admitting they don't know shit. But
we'll make a law just in case.
It says but any time a driver has their ability impaired, it's a problem.
So then you better make a law that if you're driving while you're tired, then you can.
Yeah, or any other kind of state. You're driving when, oh my God, yeah. Driving if you can't drive if you're passing gas. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
All right, Colorado and Washington are the only states that allow retail sales of marijuana for recreational use. Efforts to legalize recreational marijuana are underway in Alaska, Massachusetts, New York, yay Jules, Oregon, and the District of Columbia. Really? So the District of Criminals.
Yeah, they want to legalize it.
I remember reading that. That's right. Oh, okay. 23 states and the nation's capital permit marijuana use for medical purposes. All right, so there's dispensaries in D.C. I didn't know that. It is illegal in the states to drive. It says it is illegal in all the states to drive while impaired by marijuana.
Well, by booze or any prescription drug, that's already a law, so I don't see the point.
Well, because I've got a medical marijuana license myself, because I signed on that dotted line, I have to agree to all their little laws that they've got.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is, it has always been against the law to drive under the influence of any drug or alcohol.
No, that's not true. It hasn't always been like that.
Well, it has been for a long, long time.
But it hasn't always, because I remember when I was young...
Started in the 60s.
Yeah, but when I was young, the cops would pull you over and just pour out your beer that was open.
Oh, yeah.
And then
give you a ride home.
Not give you a ride home, but tell you to go directly home, don't go anywhere else but home, and you'd still have your case of beer intact. Right. You know what I'm saying?
So they take your booze and send you home.
And but it hasn't always been part of the law. I mean, it really hasn't.
Well, no, driving under the influence. I mean, I think it mostly started around the late 60s, really, where they started really enforcing it. Because I can remember having an open beer in the car and having the cops not do nothing. I remember being able to walk down the street in Dunsmuir drinking a beer, and there was no law. You know, and that was in the 70s, so, yeah, but driving under the influence has been around a long time. I mean,
well, sure, but it hasn't been on the books forever.
No, but it has been a long time, and under the influence of even pharmaceutical drugs.
If they're going to have to say, they would have to say pharmaceutical drugs should be included as well. I mean, I mean, they can't just pick and choose and cherry pick. It's either got across the board.
I think the law says, a DUI is driving under the influence of any drug, alcohol, or anything that impedes your ability to drive safely.
Okay, well here's the rest of this. It says Colorado, Washington, and Montana have set the intoxication threshold of 5 parts per billion of THC, psychoactive ingredient in pot, in the blood. How in the hell? Here's how they're going to test, I would imagine. A few other states have set intoxication thresholds, but most have not set a specific level. In Washington, there was a jump of nearly 25% in drivers testing positive for marijuana in 2013, the first full year after legalization, but no corresponding increase in car accidents or fatalities.
I was wondering if that was going to come in. Yep.
Right there, people, right there. What the hell? I mean, come on.
So where's the reasoning if there's no increase, in car wrecks or fatalities?
That's their own damn numbers.
Yeah.
They don't know what to think. They don't know what to think. They have no...
Oxymoron there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. What worries highway safety experts? Of course, they're always worried, and you have to worry too, just like they worry. The cases are cases like that of New York teenager Joseph Beer. Swear to God, the dude's last name is Beer. Who in October 2012 smoked marijuana, climbed into a Subaru Impreza with 4 friends, and drove more than 100 miles an hour before losing control. Well, you know what? Those Imprezas are supposed to be driven really fast, man.
And I'll bet you there was booze involved.
The car crashed into trees with such force that the vehicle was split in half, killing his friends. Now, don't you think that's punishment enough for this poor kid?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, really? Beer pleaded guilty to aggravated vehicular homicide and was sentenced this past week to 5 years to 15 years in prison. The prosecutor blamed the crash on, quote, speed and weed, unquote. God. But a Yale University medical school expert on drug abuse who testified at the trial said studies of marijuana and crash risk are, quote, highly inconclusive. All right, that's interesting.
And did this kid normally drive that fast? I mean, that car is a fast
Subaru Impreza, I mean, those are like little racing cars, and if I went behind the wheel of a Subaru Impreza, I would definitely want to take it up to 100 real quick.
Easy, yeah.
I mean, come on, let's go. Some studies show a 2 or 3-fold increase, while others show none, said Dr. Mahat Sagufalo. That's exactly what it says. Yeah, man, that's weird. Some studies even showed less risk if someone was marijuana positive, he testified. Wow! So that's coming out of Yale. It's coming out of Yale.
This story's weird.
It is. Teenage boys, and this is, it's complete, like, what is this? The publication is the Christian Science Monitor. There you go. That's why it's weird.
Teenage boys use their cars to impress people. And it's like a peacock showing his feathers. That's what teenage boys do. They use their cars to show off and impress.
Absolutely, and I'm not a teenage boy, and I do the same thing. But I wouldn't, like, smoke a big old fatty before I did it. I mean, that's ridiculous. Speed and weed, man. All right, let's see. All right, teenage boys and young men are most likely drivers to smoke pot, and the most likely drivers to have an accident regardless of whether they're high, he said. Being a teenager, a male teenager, and being involved in reckless behavior could explain both at the same time, not necessarily marijuana causing getting into accidents, but a general reckless behavior leading to both conditions at the same time, he told jurors. Holy crap. In 2012, just over 10% of high school seniors said they had smoked pot before driving at least once in the prior 2 weeks, according to Monitoring the Future, an annual University of Michigan survey of 50,000 middle and high school students. Oh, really? So their test subjects were here in Michigan. Nearly twice as many male students as female students said they had smoked marijuana before driving. What do? Freaking conduct that freaking survey in Detroit?
Yeah.
And, dude, what the hell? Unbelievable. A roadside survey by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in 2007 found 8.66% of drivers tested positive for THC, but it's not possible to say how many were high at the same time drivers were tested, only for the presence of drugs, not the amount. Only for the presence of drugs, not for... That's really... I mean, what the heck? So...
They had a roadside survey?
Yeah, see, that's messed up right there. I mean, come on. It's... Oh, my God.
That's against the Constitution, for one thing.
Did I really just read that? I can't even believe that shit. Hello? Now, look. Marijuana stores in the fat cells of your body, and if you're a little
for 30 days.
Yeah, well, yeah, for a month. But if you're a little roundish, such as I am, that shit's gonna. And if you smoke as much as I do,
it stays in your system a lot longer.
System for, I mean, at least. If I was to stop everything right now, I'm sure 3-4 months down the road, I would still test positive.
Probably, yeah.
So that is. The drivers were tested only for the presence of drugs, not the... That is just so not fair. I mean, you could be, I don't know, like at a party and they were smoking a bunch of weed and you not smoked anything and you could still test positive. Like,
I've had friends that happened to when they were on probation and they were in a room. They weren't smoking it, but they were in a room and they tested positive.
See, there we go. So, and these little tests and stuff that they come up with aren't accurate. It's insane. And
well, they are insane. Remember when I read about those back in 96, I think it was. They wanted to remove a limb if you were caught smoking a joint. An arm or a leg.
What? I have never heard this before.
What? Oh, yeah. Didn't I?
What are you talking about?
Wait, I thought I read that to everybody.
What?
No, I kid you not.
All right, let's continue with this.
Okay, finish.
A marijuana high generally peaks within a half hour and dissipates within 3 hours, but THC can linger for days in the bodies of habitual smokers. Thanks, I guess I should have just continued to read. Inexperienced pot smokers are likely to be more impaired than habitual pot smokers who develop a tolerance. Some studies show virtually no driving impairment let me say that again. Some studies show virtually no driving impairment in habitual smokers. Let me read that again. No driving impairment in habitual smokers. Hello. 2 recent studies that use similar data to assess crash risk came to 2 opposite conclusions. Wow, this whole thing is just full of Orwellian doublespeak. Columbia University researchers compared drivers who tested positive for marijuana in the roadside survey with state drug and alcohol tests of drivers killed in crashes. They found that marijuana alone increased the likelihood of being involved in a fatal crash by 80%. Really? And they use the same tests as alcohol. Okay, that's real good. But because the study included the states where not all drivers were tested for alcohol and drugs, the majority of drivers in fatal car crashes were excluded, possibly skewing the results, do you think? Although the use of urine tests rather than blood tests in some cases may overestimate marijuana use and impairment. Do you think? A Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation study used the roadside survey and data from 9 states that test more than 80% of drivers killed in crashes. And when adjusted for alcohol and driver demographics, the study found that otherwise sober drivers who tested positive for marijuana were slightly less likely to have been involved in a crash than drivers who tested negative for all drugs. Only slightly, people. We were expecting a huge impact said Eduardo Romano, lead author of the study. And when we looked at the data from car crashes, we're not seeing that much. But Romano said his study may slightly underestimate the risk that marijuana may lead to accidents caused by distraction. But hang on, so it's not really the marijuana itself, it's the distraction. So if you're a moron texting and you're high, being high is incidental to the texting and not paying attention to the road. You know what I mean? Or messing with the video or something like that. Okay, so many states do not test drivers involved in a fatal crash for drugs unless there is a reason to suspect impairment. Even if impairment is suspected, if the driver tests positive for alcohol, there may be no further testing because alcohol alone may be enough to bring criminal charges. Testing procedures may also vary from state to state. Yeah, that was one of my questions. How are they testing? If the states legalize marijuana, they must set clear limits for impairment behind the wheel and require mandatory drug testing following a crash, said Deba Hirschman, a former chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB. Yeah, right. We know your agenda. Right now, we have a patchwork system across the nation regarding mandatory drug testing following highway crashes. And that's it for that. I hate the NTSB. They piss me off. So
yeah, well, they usually do that anyway.
Sure.
When there's a wreck.
Yeah. So there we go. I mean...
Okay. Here's this article. I remember now. I didn't talk about it. I posted it. Because I was going through my files. And this is from February 1998. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's going to blow your mind. Should pot smokers get an arm cut off? That's the latest GOP anti-drug proposal. Washington, D.C., Republicans want to cut off your arm or leg if you use drugs. They want to quarantine you so you won't infect others, and they want to lock you up in jail for life. A jail sentence that's tougher than what convicted murderers get. Those are just some of the frantic and bizarre anti-drug measures being proposed by Republicans around the country. The Libertarian Party noted today and shows just how barbaric politicians are willing to get to win the war on drugs. Here is some of the legislation proposed by Republicans. Now let's get this. In Mississippi, a bill dubbed Smoke a Joint, Lose a Limb would punish marijuana smokers by amputating an arm or leg. The legislation submitted in January by Republican State Representative Bobby Moak provides that the convicted person and the court must agree on which body parts shall be removed. This was no joke, though. This is what was happening. In Kansas, a coalition of 38 Republican state legislators want to impose life terms without parole for people convicted of growing marijuana plants, even though first-degree murders can get paroled in 25 years. Congressman John Linder, Republican Georgia, chairman of the National Republican Campaign Committee, has proposed that the drug users be quarantined at abandoned military bases so they don't infect others.
Oh, FEMA camps, in other words?
Right. The problem with these proposals, besides the fact they're barbaric and unconstitutional, is that if implemented, they could lead to an America where 1/3 of the adult population is surgically tortured or sent to jail for life, said Dashed Batch. Over 72.4 million Americans, or 34% of all adults, have used illicit drugs, according to the latest report from the U.S. Substance and Abuse Health Services. Now, this is in 98, remember?
17%? That seems a little low.
No, 72 million. 34%. 34%.
34. That's still.
But this is in 98.
Yeah.
And it was still high. I mean, you know. But Imagine an America where 72 million citizens had been brutalized with the loss of a limb or thrown in jail for life or dragged off to abandoned military bases and quarantined like lepers simply for the crime of smoking marijuana. That's the kind of America that these drug warriors say they want. These new anti-drug proposals have libertarians questioning mental stability of the other politicians. What could possess otherwise sane, educated adults to try to incarcerate, quarantine, and amputate their way to victory, he asks. It's called drug war hysteria, and it's spreading among politicians like wildfire. And it's still spreading like wildfire. You know?
Well,
but, I mean, that's how crazy it is. I mean, it's a war against us.
Hold on a second. There's a lot of states that, since 1997, that have medical marijuana, and now we've got 2 states and possibly like 3 or 4 more that are considering decriminalization. So actually, it hasn't. It's kind of stopped. It's kind of going the other way now.
Yeah, but the feds are still going in and busting people.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about the federal government, yeah, but
well, you have to, because federal law trumps state law. Otherwise, they couldn't come in and bust these people with dispensaries and stuff that are abiding by California law.
Yeah.
But the feds still come in.
Yes.
So, you know, imagine if this legislation would have gone through.
Well, thank God it didn't.
I
mean, it's good that it didn't. Hello, I mean, it's nobody in their right freaking mind would approve anything like that. Do you know how many people would be behind, like walking, not walking, but you know, hopping around limbless?
I know. Well,
I mean,
you know what? I mean,
what happens if they're caught like 3 times? I mean, they lose 3 limbs. I mean,
3 limbs. Yeah.
I mean, they're caught 5 times smoking it or whatever. You lose your head. I mean, what? I mean, how far do you want to take it?
I know. It's crazy, but these are some of the laws, you know, we don't hear about all the laws, and it's almost impossible to keep up with the amount of laws being put in enforced, you know, daily.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I have a lot of old articles with crazy stuff in them. But yeah, I came across that one and thought, wow, people should know just how crazy our politicians are. And these guys are working for us.
Well, hopefully those guys are not in office anymore.
I think Linder still is, but I don't think the other guys are.
Yeah, well, it's just like we were saying earlier, the very guys that enact or write these crazy, insane laws and put them on the books are the very same guys that break their own law on a daily basis.
But yeah, the president would be walking around, you know, with missing a leg or an arm.
Sure. Exactly.
In fact, most politicians would really, if you really get down to it, because you know they've all got high.
Absolutely. I mean, they party. I mean, we know what goes on in there. So, and they, you know, I don't know.
The laws are just getting ridiculous. I mean,
sure, but you know, thank God that one didn't.
Yeah, you know, but other laws, like in Arizona, you could, if you got busted with pot, you could get life in prison. And I don't know if that's never been really taken off the books.
Right, there are people still today facing life in prison for pot and doing life in prison for pot. There's an awful lot of them out there.
There is no more federal parole either.
It's all like nonviolent stuff, and man.
And they're always bitching about the jails are too full. Well, why not release all the nonviolent people you have in prison?
Exactly. Especially the ones convicted for pot.
Right, you know, because if otherwise law-abiding citizens, but they just chose to medicate themselves in a way that others didn't agree with. And so now they make them criminals.
Sure. Well, that's the same with anything else that we were reading. You know, it's going to make good drivers suspects. Because if you're driving good, you could be on pot, see?
If you get down to it, all of these checkpoints are against the Constitution, period.
That's right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then further testing
Oh, I know, like blood
you're
test.
impaired, I mean, that's even more unconstitutional.
Now, how did it say they were going to test?
It didn't say, and that was our first question.
Yeah.
How are you going to test for these things? But, well, it did say, actually. It said they test it just like they test it for alcohol, like a breathalyzer or some shit.
A breathalyzer?
It didn't even say breathalyzer, but it said they test just like they test for alcohol. So they test for alcohol typically with a breathalyzer. So I don't know
and that
how...
That won't show up on a breathalyzer.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it seems as though
the only way is blood test or a urine test.
Right, that's what they said in the article. So
they're gonna have a little potty there where they walk in and watch.
Right, right. Or they have to take blood test on site at the checkpoint.
This is getting out of hand, and
people
should be up in arms about this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely, and all the studies that from that article said, and this is like from the freaking Christian Science Monitor.
It's like they want to make the laws just in case.
Well, right, but all the experts were saying that marijuana by itself doesn't seem to have impairment on driving.
Right, but they want to make a law anyway.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. I'm glad I read that article. It was good.
Yeah. It is, and it shows they're still nuts. They are still insane.
That's right, absolutely. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm rocking.
That's funny. Oh my goodness!
It's just so. Oh man!
So
you should see me when a couple of days ago when I was trying to clean up my files. Oh man, I had everything all over the room, and police brutality, Cronin laws, and this and that, and I mean, I was going nuts reading. I was just going, "Oh my God, is it ever going to stop?"
Yeah,
because I mean, my files go back to the 1970s and a little earlier than that, even of legislation and stuff that has been going on, just progressively getting more and more and more police state. I mean, even law-abiding citizens are noticing it now. Even my landlady. Like, I go, how many laws do you figure you break a day? And, I mean, this lady is Miss Straight, do everything perfect, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, shit, I probably couldn't make it within the first hour I'm awake without breaking one.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty typical.
Mm-hmm. But you know what's funny is, though, the cops don't know the laws, and they're enforcing them.
Right.
They make up things. If they want to bust you and you did something that, like filming them, okay, they're going to say it's against the law. No, it's not. They don't even know the law.
The Supreme Court said that it's not against the law.
Right, but a lot of cops are still busting people for that.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. They attacked the press in Ferguson. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The whole 9 yards.
They go up to you and tell you stop filming, and then grab your phone or whatever and try and delete it and stuff. But they think that it's against the law, or they say, what is it? Obstructing their investigation, even if you're 25 feet away.
Right.
So, yeah, the cops don't know the laws. They make them up in their heads. Anything to be right.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. It's a bummer.
And I read another article. I mean,
here we go. Here's an article. Since we're talking about this, how does a police department lose a military Humvee? Holy crap! So many theft, fraud, plague, controversial Pentagon program spotlighted by Ferguson. Here we go. Since we're talking about this. One freezing day last December in the tiny town of Palestine, Arkansas, a young man, I remember we read this. A young man climbed into the police department's Humvee, turned it on, drove it off on a joyride. It never crossed my mind that anyone would do that, Palestine Police Chief Stanley Barnes said Wednesday of the incident. The Humvee, which the town of fewer than 700 people got for free through a controversial Pentagon program that gives old military equipment to local police departments. I remember reading this, guys. Doesn't have keys.
It's like off-road equipment, like all cats and stuff. They all use the same key.
Right, but it's easy to look up how to start one. The possibility that the 5,000-pound Humvee might be stolen was so far from Barnes' mind that it took a week before anyone on the small force noticed it was missing from the police department station's parking lot. That's hilarious. That's how much, that's good. Small towns, they're like, who cares? Nobody's going to notice that.
If they ever drew a raid, they would have noticed right away because they're using them for that.
Once Barnes noticed it was gone, he sprang into action. We do just what police officers do. We drove out and it says, we found out who done it, said Barnes. People talk. A hunter reported seeing the vehicle, which was emblazoned with the police department's logo in the woods a county over. The thief had driven into a tree and completely wrecked it, so he was obviously wasted. Go drive the damn tank, man. Barnes sent a truck over to pick up the Humvee and tow it back to the station. The police department now uses the massive wreck for parts for its other Humvee, which it's also obtained from the Department of Defense Access Property Program, DOD, number 1033. So look that one up, guys, to help fight crime in a small town. We were reading about this. As odd as it may seem that a hulking armored personnel carrier would go missing from the police department, it is not that uncommon of occurrence. In fact, at least 3 of the police stations have misplaced or have been robbed of their government-issued Humvees in the past 5 years.
Misplaced?
Misplaced. Yeah, right. Weapons turn up missing too, really. Yahoo News found that local police departments like Palestine's have been suspended from the Pentagon 1033 program for misplacing at least 14 M16 assault rifles, 11 M14 assault rifles, 21 pistols, and 10 shotguns. Hey!
How do you lose a Humvee? Wow, I just can't remember where I parked that thing.
Awesome. So they were like, hey man, I'm keeping this. These figures don't come close to representing the total number of weapons that have been stolen or lost over the life of the program. However, a figure the Department of Defense has not released. So the cops are obviously taking this crap home. Obviously.
Or selling it.
Right, or selling it back onto the streets. That's right, to their local buddy guns. Not a gun dealer, but they're the ones that supply the underground gun running things usually, as the cops do.
Well, remember when they were taking all the guns, they confiscated it and then selling them back to the public?
Yeah. Well, that's back to the public, but a lot of them are in the organized crime bit, and they sell it to their little butt buddies that do it illegally.
And it goes to gangs and wherever.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
People who can't buy guns legally.
Right, that's usually... Okay, in the wake of the controversy over the military-style police response to protests in Ferguson, Missouri, President Barack Obama has announced that the White House is conducting a review of the 1033 program to ensure it's using taxpayer money wisely, and is not giving police departments equipment they don't need or shouldn't have. A Senate committee will also examine the program in a hearing on September 9th, which is in 7 days. Let's see what they're going to say about that. Among the problems that Obama is likely to find that the program lacks oversight, really, and accountability. Really? Anybody hear of Fast and Furious? Once the Pentagon weapons reach the 8,000 police departments, many of them in tiny towns that participate in the program, the federal government has little control over them. The departments are not allowed to sell or dispose of any of the 1033 quote, controlled items, which include small arms and tactical vehicles. An agency in each state takes over responsibility for checking the inventory once a year and reporting anything missing to the Defense Department's logistics agency. But penalties for disappearing equipment are minimal. Police departments that lose semi-automatic assault rifles are not allowed to get any new gear from the program, but are not required to return any of the equipment they have already received. Sheriff Joe Arpaio of Maricopa County, Arizona, for example, can keep the 89 M16s he got through the program, even though his department was suspended in 2012 after he lost one of those rifles, along with 9 Colt 45 handguns. What's up with that, Joe? Losing a weapon or vehicle, even something as big and expensive as a Humvee, does not mean a police department will be automatically excluded from getting more free military equipment. If departments report the equipment missing within 24 hours, they can avoid suspension entirely. That's nice.
Now, you know that all this equipment still belongs to the Pentagon. They are on loan, in Davis they said to return it to the Pentagon because it's still their property. These are all out on loan. They're not given like outright.
Did you just hear what I just read?
I missed it. I was typing.
Oh, for goodness sakes. They said that they don't want this stuff back.
I know they don't, but you know what? I think they're going to be getting it back.
Huh?
No, I mean, because like Davis, where are these county communities going to do with this equipment when they don't want it? They want to send it back. They want to give it back.
No, no. Actually, it's obvious by me reading this article that there's guys taking this stuff home.
Okay, Davis, they demand that their community give back all the military equipment. But if the Pentagon's not going to take it, then what happens, I'm wondering?
Well, it seems like the cops we divvy it up and take it home. Somebody's going to have a Humvee. Yeah, somebody's going to have a Humvee in their backyard. Have an auction. I mean, sell it to the public.
I want one.
Well, that's an easy way around it, right?
Yeah,
if the Pentagon won't, so you should probably, maybe say something to somebody in Davis or something that, hey, if the Pentagon won't take it back, then just sell it off at public auction. Easy solution.
Yeah, but then the cops aren't going to have citizens with that kind of equipment.
Well, I mean, if they're going to divvy it up amongst themselves, I mean, that's what cops do, right? Okay, let me keep going. The Sheriff's Department in St. Francis County, Missouri, has not been suspended from the program, even though a man stole its 1990 Humvee in May and went on a crime spree in it, robbing a convenience store before he was finally apprehended in St. Louis County. And suspensions can be lifted fairly easily. The police department in Meridian, Mississippi, signed a, quote, corrective action plan, a letter promising to keep tighter control over its loaned weapons last March after it lost 4 M14 assault rifles from its arsenal. The letter will most likely result in its reinstatement. Meanwhile, Sheriff Tom Jones of Grant County, Washington, said he expects to be reinstated in the program after the Washington State Patrol finishes investigating the disappearance of one of its government-issued M16 assault rifles. One of my chief deputies is overseeing getting back on the roster, he said. That's interesting. See, the cops are taking this crap home. The program has also been a magnet for fraud. Oh, do you think? Police Chief of Rising Star, Texas, William Jason Kelsey, was indicted in February on charges of illegally pawning and bartering more than $4 million worth of equipment he got from the program, including a machine gun. Kelsey died before his trial took place. Yeah, that's usually how it happens. Because he was obviously selling a gun running like freaking Justice Department people. Meanwhile, a police officer in Columbus, Ohio, was sentenced for 2 years in prison for selling federal 1033 equipment for profit in 2012. A municipal audit in Nashville, Tennessee in 2008 found more than $130,000 of federal property missing and blamed a city official for its misuse. Yeah, this is exactly where I said it was going to go. The 1033 program has given away $1.5 billion in equipment to local police departments since it was first authorized in Congress in 1990, according to Defense Logistics Agency. But it has recently come under fire since Ferguson protests over police shooting of an unarmed 18-year-old man drew martial police response that included cops using tactical vehicles complete with rotating machine guns arming their turrets for crowd control. The Ferguson police say they did not obtain weapons through the 1033 program. Really? Where in the hell did they get that shit then?
Yeah, how'd they get it then?
Mm-hmm. There is a big difference between our military and our local law enforcement, and we do not want those lines blurred, Obama said last month.
He's the one that started all this stuff.
That's
Remember his standing army, civil army?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. All these little policies and all this stuff, he's talking out of both sides of his ass, as usual. The president is ordering his staff to review the program to, quote, ensure ultimately these local law enforcement organizations and Department of Defense are being good stewards of taxpayer dollars.
Like he didn't know. I mean, if you remember in his campaign.
Wait, the press secretary Josh Ernst said last week, that wasn't Obama that just said that. I just have to clarify that. The review will ask if the police departments are properly trained to use the equipment they're getting. If they need gear in the first place. If they need gear in the first place. That's interesting. Weapons make up at just 5% of the equipment given out through the Pentagon program. And tactical vehicles like the Humvee Palestine lost make up them 1% of the gear. Computers, sleeping bags, office furniture, and other access items account for the rest of the local windfall. Police supporters argue that the free equipment helps them fight crime in an area of shrinking municipal budgets, and that it would be a waste to destroy vehicles and weapons the military no longer needs, but has already paid for. Local police are responsible for paying for maintenance and training. Yahoo News contacted the 35 states with police departments that have been suspended by the Pentagon over the past 5 years. Just 18 states responded with that equipment, if any, was missing in those law enforcement agencies that caused the suspensions. So, 35 states, with the police departments that have been suspended, just 18 of those responded. So God knows how much other freaking crap is going on with this program and those other police departments. I mean, what? The Defense Department won't release a list of full missing equipment nationwide. Oh, do you think? So it is impossible to know the full scope of the problem. It relies on state coordinators to ensure departments aren't misusing or misplacing things, according to the Defense Department spokesman Mark Wright. Well, Mark Wright, I just have 2 words for you. Well, 3 words for you. Fast and furious. How's that, you son of a bitch?
Well, isn't the Pentagon keeping track of what they're sending out?
They are. That's the point. They are keeping track of all this crap, and they're sending this crap out because there's a lot of cops that are out there that are completely working for them. So it's this is just another avenue to get equipment in the hands of bad people. So that's what we've got going here. I'm not even he says we've got some people that run this program, but there's no way we can keep track of 8,000 different agencies, Wright said. Oh, I thought they were all trying to become under one umbrella happy happy dappy.
What do you mean there's no way to keep
Yeah,
track?
that's
I mean,
bullshit.
we have
Bullshit. Well, the reason why there's no way to keep track is because of the Fast and Furious gun running where they have done all this. My goodness, this is just absolutely crazy. So that was a damn good article, I must say. I'm glad I read that one. That was very interesting. And there is a well, no, I don't think there is a video that goes along with it. Yes, there is. Or no, it's a photo. So very interesting, huh?
It's crazy. And I mean, you know, if you look, what gets me is when they compare pictures of Iraq at war with all this equipment, and then they show your local police with the same thing. That is not right.
No.
And you can't tell the police from a soldier at war.
Right. Well, no, that's because what Obama said, oh, we can't have the lines blurred, now can we? Sure, that's exactly what they're doing.
And when he campaigned, we need a civil army as strong as our military. I remember those words because I thought, what the hell is this man talking about?
Yep. I've heard that.
And then act like, oh, well, we got to get a handle on this. It's his idea. Scumbucket.
That's funny. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, and I seen a video last night, one of those, it wasn't Mark's video, but on the street, people asking people questions.
Mark
about,
Dice, you mean?
Yeah, it wasn't him, but it was like this news service or something that was in passing. But they were asking people on the street, how do you think the president's doing on the job? But doing a scale of 1 to 10. And I couldn't believe some of these people saying, oh, it's 6 or 7. I'm thinking these people are not of this planet, a 6 or a 7. You know, I mean, the guy's gone most of the time. He hasn't fulfilled any of his campaign promises except for militarizing our police. You know, for people to think he's doing okay, and our economy is better because of him. That's how uninformed people are.
Right. And
I don't know.
Most aren't, most really weren't even really aware of all this militarization of the police before all this Ferguson stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Now more people are aware of it, which is a good thing. But are people going to do anything about it? No, because they think they're powerless.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's just like, maybe if it starts happening more and more to people of money, like what happened in I think, where was that? It was the police. I mean, they're using these to serve warrants or raids for like one joint or something. You know, I was just looking at this one where the whole thing, the police. It was SWAT teams, and they were all coordinated, and they surrounded this house, and they entered this house with the battering ram and killed a guy within the first 10 seconds of entering the room. An unarmed person, they were sitting watching TV when they came in. And all they found, after all that, and they searched the house and everything, they found a very small baggie with a little bit of residue. But a man was dead. It's right. Oh, here, I found the article. And it says, SWAT team breaks down door, shoots man as he watched TV with a friend. And their evidence was just ridiculous. It's Easton, Connecticut. Police violently broke in on a couple of men watching television, exploded concussion grenades, and shot one man roughly a second after entry. The fatal, under-investigated raid yielded no arrests and led to the shooter being named Officer of the Year, all because someone was suspected of getting high without government permission. The disturbing operation happened on the afternoon of May 18, 2008. Homeowner Ronald Terabisi was sitting in his living room with his friend, a 33-year-old Gonzalez Guzan of Norwalk. At around 2 p.m., the entrance door of 91 Dogwood Avenue in Easton was abruptly splintered by a battering ram. In an instant, explosions were rocking the house and shadowy figures dressed in black poured into the home. When the smoke cleared and the chaos was over, Mr. Guzan lied in a pool of blood, shot multiple times. The violence wasn't the result of a street gang or cartel. The gun-wielding men were members of a SWAT team serving a no-knock search warrant for narcotics. The explosions were 3 flashbang grenades that police had tossed through the windows and doors. Besides killing Mr. Guzan, police allegedly assaulted Mr. Terabisi by pinning him to the floor and hitting him in the head with a rifle butt. Officers then tore apart the home looking for contraband. An amateur video of the raid was recorded from a moving vehicle. The clip shows little of the raid but a brief glimpse of the SWAT team lined up outside the home before entry. More revealing, however, was the accompanying audio. The sound of the door cracking occurred at 1:18 mark on the video. The shooting erupted almost immediately, and the gunfire stopped at 1:20. Mr. Guzan was shot full of holes in just 2 seconds after entry. This is crazy. You know, the 9-man team lined up, single file in a stacked formation outside the home, led by a man bearing a large metal shield. The team was accompanied by an armored police vehicle and several SUVs, along with multiple snipers that had been positioning themselves in the nearby woods. It looked like the Russian army had approached, neighbor Jude Clark said. This was overkill. Officer Michael Sweeney of the Monroe Police Department was the shield bearer and was told to rush in and pin Mr. Terabisi with the shield. He was directed to not even wait for the final flashbang to detonate. Information with rifles ready, the team began to count down over the radio. 10, 9, 8. At count 1, police behind the house shattered the back windows and threw in the concussion grenades into the dining room as a distraction. The entry team came in from the front. Mr. Teresi, in an interview following the incident, said that he and his friend were watching television when they heard what sounded like the dining room chandelier falling down, followed by 2 shotgun blasts. These sounds were actually the glass windows being shattered and the first flash grenades exploding. Both Teresi and Guzan moved away from the commotion towards the den room at the front of the house. As they approached the door, it opened, followed by sharp flashes, according to State Attorney Jonathan Benedict's report. Both men were immediately knocked back and pinned by officers using the large shield. The team had rushed in so quickly that the third grenade detonated in the proximity to the police officers, causing debris to strike the leg of Officer Sweeney, who led with the shield. He yelled, "I'm hit, I'm hit." Officer Brian Ware, believing his comrade was under attack, fired 1 shot, but didn't hit anyone. Sweeney unleashed a volley of bullets at Mr. Guzan, striking him a half-dozen times. Officer Sweeney later testified that Terabisi and Guzan rushed him, tugged on his shield, and that Guzan tried to take his pistol. However, no evidence backed the claim. Officer Ware testified that he did not see any struggle between the men. There were no fingerprints found on Sweeney's gun belonging to the descendant. And as the video demonstrates, the entire confrontation happened in about a second. There is undisputed evidence Guzan and Terabisi were huddled in a corner when police shot. an attorney for the homeowner told the Connecticut police. Now, grounds for the raid. Now, this is going to blow your mind. The police proceeded with the raid on an incredibly flimsy basis. The morning of May 18th, the Easton Police Department received a call from a self-described exotic dancer who called herself Chandra Parker. The unvetted informant, who had given a fake name and actually had a criminal record, claimed that she spent 30 minutes at Mr. Terabessi's home and saw him remove an unknown material from a tin container, put it in a pipe, and smoke it. That was all the evidence that was needed for Easton Police Chief John Jack Solomon to call out the Southwest Regional Emergency Response Team, which is comprised of police officers from Eaton, Monroe, Trumbull, Wilton, and Darien. The chief was eager to rid the neighborhood of a resident that was viewed as a nuisance after several of the petty complaints. I want the search warrant done today, the chief demanded, according to the deposition testimony of Officer Christopher Barton. He didn't want to wait until Monday or Tuesday or something like that. He wanted it completed that day. SWRET Team Commander Lieutenant Ronald Kirby of the Trumbull Police Department had reservations about the raid due to the fact that a child's birthday party was happening across the street. There were balloons tied to the neighbor's mailbox. Kirby said the Chief Solomon was insistent that the raid be performed immediately. According to Solomon, the urgency was to ensure that the bust occurred while evidence was still present. He stated that the raid was necessary to obtain evidence that the crime, obviously a crime, was occurring and to obtain the evidence. Now, on a call from someone who used a fake name, they sent the SWAT team out, and a man is dead, and they really found nothing. I mean, they made no arrest. This is how law enforcement's taking care of business these days. You know, any reason to raid a house.
Yep. Well, I mean, if the fools are going to come in blasting, and you know what I mean, and that's the first thing they rely on, just like they do in like Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah, when there's going to be problems, there's going to be big problems.
Yeah, and using grenades, concussion.
Well, flashbangs, yes, yeah. Flashbang grenades. That's what they used in Waco.
Right, I was just going to say that. Yep, and those things are deadly.
They are, yes, they can be. I mean, if you're right underneath a flashbang, you're going to be, losing a limb and then losing blood.
Look at that baby that they shot it into the baby's crib and all kinds of surgeries, and they aren't even going to pay for it.
Of course not.
Yeah, this raid happened in a wealthy neighborhood.
Yeah, well, nobody is safe. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you live anymore. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It's the cops against the citizens, and that's the definition of a police state. So we're back to that.
Yeah, and people got to get it through their heads. My landlady is a good example, that she thinks the police have a hard job and that they are all perfect and that they never do anything wrong. And if they say this happened, then that happened.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
I mean, you're gonna think that until what? It happens to you or Bob? But then again, just as it's totally messed up to think of it like one-sided like that. It's also just as messed up to say that every single cop is out there either on the take or doesn't care and will brutalize and kill you at the drop of a hat. You can't just blanket say that either. But why aren't the police departments taking care of their house? If you got a cop that is being brought up on charges all the time of brutality, why is he still on the force?
Because it's judges and prosecutors that are mainly responsible for that. We've said this before.
No, but I mean, why isn't... Okay, if you're the police chief and you have this officer...
Because the judges and prosecutors are not pressing charges on these officers. That's where it comes down to. And then they're reinstated because of, union stuff going on to the department. So really...
but they are being accused because we're paying out settlements two people, and then the cop is still on the force is the part I'm saying. The ones that are convicted, that the people have won their case and that they have paid a settlement to.
Right.
If this happens twice, that cop should not be on the force.
No, it shouldn't. But
that's what I mean.
But the cops aren't facing charges. These are lawsuits. These are suits against the department, and should be against the cops themselves. For some reason, cops aren't paying out of their own damn pockets, and that's because
that gets me too.
Well, right. I mean, and that's because of you know, I would imagine
we're paying for them to abuse us.
You're right, the judiciary end of it all, and that's what that lawyer was, that criminal trial lawyer was stating a couple Sundays ago, like I was talking about. So a lot of it, you know, is not solely because of police departments in and of itself. You know what I mean? It's the reasons why this stuff keeps happening. It's a lot of times it's in the judiciary.
But I would think that if they've paid out two settlements because of one officer, you know, being charged with brutality or you know, misuse of authority, that's a good reason to fire them.
Yeah,
but they're not being fired.
I mean,
is what I'm saying. The police chiefs need to take care. They need to clean their houses is what they need to do.
Right, but a lot of that has to do with internal department matters. A lot of those cops are unionized, so the unions have a lot to do with it as well.
But even the union, how can they defend that?
Well, because it's the union. They're thugs themselves, so they, you know what I'm saying? So it's a vicious freaking circle, and you can't just blame it on like little factions and say that all cop departments are completely corrupt. A lot of them are. I just read a whole freaking article about how a lot of these police departments are totally, you know, stashing away M16s and M14. You know what I mean? I mean, they're out there, but to say every single department is like that is not fair.
Yeah. Well, you know, and this, like this guy in this case that I just read, those 5 towns agreed to pay him $3.5 million settlement.
Right. And he should get that. He should get that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, how about the family of the dead guy? I mean, this is the guy who's still living. I don't know what's happened with the family with that, but
they owe him too. They owe that family too. I mean, really, it should be, lawsuits definitely should be filed, and like I said, the individual cops need to be sued too if they're running around doing this to the public.
And you know what?
But they're not. And
that police chief that demanded they go out there on flimsy evidence, didn't take time to investigate, he should be replaced.
Well, the thing is that when these settlements are paid out, it's all taxpayer money. It comes from the freaking taxpayers. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're not being held accountable in any appropriate way whatsoever, and I do agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, the citizens got to do something because we're paying these guys to abuse us.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm. And if you tell a police officer, I pay your wage, boy, then you're really getting
you're getting to be an uppity citizen, and you need to be tasered.
Right, 13 times or whatever. You know? Yeah, yeah. You tell a cop, well, I pay your wages, boy, that's asking for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's ways to handle the situation.
Keep your mouth shut until after you're out of their reach.
Well, I mean, usually if you're just cordial and normal and address them in a normal way or whatever, you know, I mean, a lot of people just start getting this big attitude and start, you know, even if you know the laws and even if you can cite the laws like by number.
Yeah, but you have to be afraid to stand up for your rights.
They even get they get pissed off at that. But if you just talk to them like they're normal human beings, most of the time they'll let you alone.
I used to believe that, but anymore, I mean, if you even ask them why about something, you're liable for a beating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you can't. Why? What kind of country is this that you can't stand up for the rights, your own rights? That you know, you're liable to be beaten if you stand up for the rights that belong to you.
Yep. Well, this is what we're seeing, and this is why the mentality of cops versus the citizen is being drilled in everybody's head. So if they create riots in big cities, this is how they're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just...
It's the implementation of a police state. And if
it's getting stronger and stronger.
Like I said before, and we might as well just end the show this way, it's up to everybody's individual responsibility in their own actions in their own lives they take when they're on the job every day and when they're out in the streets every day. It's up to you to make your own decisions and take the moral high ground, you know? Yeah. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
We're at the end of the show.
Yeah, thanks for hanging. I hope you enjoyed the show, and it was good to be back.
Day, so we
got
to talk about other stuff for the rest of the week now.
I don't know this stuff. The police state is an important subject that you got to keep refreshing people's minds about. This could happen to you.
Yeah, once a week is pretty good, I'd say. You know what I mean? Right on. So here we go, guys. It's Tuesday here on UCY.TV. Already the second day of the month. All the kids are back to school by now, and oh my goodness. So here we go. Stay tuned. Next show is Post Ignorance with Kevin fucking Blanche. And we all love Kevin, absolutely. So, and then we have wonderful evening planned here on usually a wonderful lineup on Tuesday nights, starting at 6 with the Ocelli Effect with Chuck Ocelli, and then at 8 is the Continual Condition with Jonathan and Steven, and then at 9, guys, don't forget about All Things Apocalyptic with G. Michael Hoff. That's an awesome show. And then at 10, we got Primer Time with Dan and Michael. That's always good, too. I love those guys. And then at 11 o'clock is Prepper Chicks After Dark. Prepper Chicks had a really good show this morning before the first cup, before we got on. Man, that was an awesome show. Thank you, Lori. That was fantastic. It was about slingshots. Oh,
I know, I want a slingshot now.
Yes, I totally want a slingshot or 2 or 3 or 4. Absolutely.
I have a blowgun, which is real good too.
That's nice. My dad has one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a fantastic. I'm glad I got to squeeze that in about the slingshot show before we came on this morning. So what a neat way to start out a Tuesday, guys. And so Lori starts the day and ends the day here on UCY. So stay tuned for that. There we go.
We're out of here.
Yep, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Everybody have a great day of school, and you take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.